Arrogant billionaire mocks black server in French. He responds fluently, then adds Italian, Spanish, and Mandarin for good measure. The moment Reese Caldwell decided to humiliate someone in French, she sealed her own transformation. She just didn't know it yet. Tuesday night at Lumiere, Boston's most exclusive French restaurant, belonged to people like Reese. 28 years old, heiress to Caldwell Industries' tech empire, she'd learned early that money bought more than comfort. It bought invisibility for bad behavior. Her platinum card had no limit. Neither did her sense of superiority. "Another bottle," Reese snapped, barely glancing up from her phone. Across the table, her friend Brooklyn Hayes, trust fund baby, lifestyle influencer, professional yacht hopper, scrolled through Instagram, double-tapping photos of other people's Mediterranean vacations. The restaurant glowed amber and gold, intimate and prohibitively expensive. Soft jazz played beneath conversations conducted in whispers and corporate jargon. This was where senators dined with lobbyists, where venture capitalists courted startups, where old money pretended new money didn't exist. "They're slow tonight," Brooklyn complained, her voice carrying that particular pitch of someone who'd never worked service. "I have a midnight flight to Miami. We should have gone somewhere faster." "Somewhere faster?" Reese laughed, cold and dismissive. "You mean somewhere with actual waiters who understand urgency? These people treat serving like it's an art form. It's bringing food to tables, not performing surgery." A young black man approached their table, wine bottle balanced perfectly in hand. Tall, composed, maybe 26 or 27, wearing the standard server uniform. Black vest, crisp white shirt, movements efficient and professional. His name tag read Jordan. "Good evening, ladies. Your Chateau Margaux 2015. His voice was smooth, courteous, completely neutral. He began the wine presentation with practiced precision, label toward Reese, slight angle, waiting for approval. Reese didn't look at him. She looked through him, the way she'd looked through hundreds of service workers before. "Just pour it," Jordan poured, silent and steady. As he set the bottle on the table, Reese's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, an email from her father's company about quarterly projections, then looked at Brooklyn with theatrical exasperation. "Mon Dieu, ces serveurs sont tellement lents. C'est comme s'ils ne comprenaient pas l'urgence. Probablement n'a jamais rien fait d'important de sa vie. My God, these servers are so slow. It's like they don't understand urgency. Probably never done anything important with his life." She said it casually, carelessly, the way someone speaks a foreign language in front of people they assume won't understand. Brooklyn giggled, delighted by the performance, by the shared cruelty disguised as sophistication. Jordan didn't flinch, didn't pause. He simply adjusted the wine bottle's position, smiled with perfect professional detachment, and replied in flawless French, "Je comprends parfaitement, mademoiselle. Et pour votre information, j'ai un doctorat en linguistique comparée. Bonne soirée." "I understand perfectly, miss. And for your information, I have a doctorate in comparative linguistics. Good evening." Then he walked away, leaving Reese frozen, wine glass halfway to her lips, face draining of color. CTA. "Hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world, so don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. Reese's penthouse overlooked Boston Harbor, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city like a painting she owned. Everything in the space screamed curated wealth, mid-century modern furniture, abstract art worth more than most people's homes, a wine collection that required its own climate-controlled room. She stood at the window Wednesday morning, coffee in hand, trying to forget last night's humiliation. Her phone buzzed. Mom calling. "Reese, darling, your father and I are finalizing the Newport Gala guest list. You're bringing someone, correct?" "I'll figure it out, Mom." "Well, figure quickly. We can't have you showing up alone again. The Vanderbilts asked about you. Their son, Pierce, just made partner at his firm." Reese closed her eyes. "I'm not interested in Pierce Vanderbilt. You're 28, sweetheart. You need to start thinking strategically about these things. Strategic. Everything was strategic. Marriage wasn't about love, it was about mergers, consolidations, maintaining the family portfolio. Her parents had met at a charity auction, married within a year, and ran their relationship like a corporation. Efficient, profitable, cold. After hanging up, Reese called Brooklyn, who answered on speaker from her Pilates class. "Still traumatized about last night?" Brooklyn asked, breathless from mountain climbers. "I can't believe he understood. Babe, forget it. He's a waiter, so he speaks French. Big deal. My housekeeper speaks 3 languages. Doesn't change what they do for a living." That logic settled something in Reese, smoothed the jagged edges of embarrassment. Brooklyn was right. Languages didn't equal status. Her father always said education without application was just expensive trivia. This Jordan guy might have a fancy degree, but he was still bringing her wine while she signed checks that could buy his entire year's salary. "You're right," Reese said, feeling the familiar comfort of superiority returning. "I was overthinking it. Of course you were. Listen, you're a Caldwell. Your family built half of Boston's tech infrastructure. You sit on charity boards. You vacation in places most people can't pronounce. He serves food. There's a natural order to things." After the call, Reese scrolled through her social media. Photos from Aspen, from her family's Martha's Vineyard estate, from last month's Paris trip. Thousands of followers, hundreds of likes, comments from people she'd never met calling her inspiring, goals lucky. She paused on a photo from a homeless shelter volunteer event her PR team organized last year. She'd served Thanksgiving dinner, smiled for cameras, left after 45 minutes. The caption read, "Giving back to our community. We're all in this together." The comments praised her generosity, her kindness, her humility. Reese closed the app, poured more coffee, and stared at the harbor. The natural order of things. Some people gave, some people received. That's how the world worked. That's how it had always worked. Thursday afternoon at Serenity Wellness Spa, where facials cost $300 and memberships required references, Reese reclined in a massage chair while a technician worked on her pedicure. Beside her, Brooklyn flipped through Vogue, occasionally showing Reese photos of fashion she'd already bought. "So, Pierce Vanderbilt," Brooklyn said, not looking up. "Your mom's serious about that?" "She's always serious. Dad wants me at the Newport thing anyway. Some Japanese investors he's courting. I'm supposed to be charming and decorative. You're good at that." The spa door chimed. A young black woman entered, maybe early 20s, wearing the spa's uniform but moving with uncertain steps. New employee, clearly. She approached the reception desk, spoke quietly to the manager. "Excuse me, ladies." The manager, Portia, 50-something, surgically maintained, dripping with the authority of someone who controlled access to exclusive spaces, approached with apologetic smile. "We're running slightly behind. Your massage therapists are finishing with previous clients. Can I offer you champagne while you wait?" "We're already waiting," Reese said, not rudely, just factually. "How much longer?" 10 minutes, maximum." The new employee, trying to be helpful, brought a tray of cucumber water. Her hands trembled slightly as she set it down. One glass wobbled, water sloshing but not spilling. "Careful," Reese said, that automatic tone of someone correcting a child. "These chairs are Italian leather. They cost more than—" She stopped herself, but the implication hung there. More than you make. More than you could afford. The young woman's jaw tightened. "Of course, my apologies." Brooklyn waited until she'd walked away. "New girl's nervous. She'll learn or she won't last." Reese sipped her cucumber water. "This place has standards. You can't just hire anyone. Remember when they tried that diversity initiative last year?" Brooklyn laughed. "Portia told my mom half the new hires didn't even understand the client base. Like, you need a certain type of person for this environment. People who get it." Reese nodded, feeling that familiar comfort of agreement, of shared understanding. It wasn't about race. She'd tell anyone who asked. It was about fit, about standards, about maintaining the quality that made places like this special. Through the spa's front window, she noticed someone walking past outside. Tall, familiar posture. Jordan, the server from Lumiere. He wore jeans and a Howard University sweatshirt, headphones in, carrying textbooks. He looked different outside the restaurant. Younger, more relaxed, entirely unbothered. He didn't see her watching. "That's him," Reese said quietly. "Who?" "The waiter. From the other night." Brooklyn glanced up, caught a glimpse before he disappeared around the corner. "Still thinking about him?" "No," Reese lied. "Just recognized him." But something itched in her mind. A doctorate in linguistics, Howard sweatshirt, textbooks on a Thursday afternoon. The pieces didn't fit her understanding of people who served tables, and pieces that didn't fit bothered her. Saturday morning, Reese met her father for coffee at Commonwealth Grounds, a trendy cafe near Boston Common, where entrepreneurs pitched startups and Harvard students pretended to study while networking. Her father, Richard Caldwell, 62, silver-haired, perpetually checking his phone, sat at their usual corner table. "The Tokyo deal's moving forward," he said instead of hello. "I need you at the presentation next month. Your Japanese is passable, right? Conversational, not business level. Good enough? These investors appreciate the effort." He sipped his espresso, eyes already scanning his tablet. "Your mother says you're bringing someone to Newport? I'm working on it. Work faster. Image matters, Reese. People invest in families, not just companies." She wanted to argue, to say something about autonomy or personal choice, but her father's phone rang. An important call, always an important call, and he stepped outside, leaving her alone with her overpriced latte. That's when she heard the voice. "No, profesora Martínez, lo entiendo completamente. El plazo es el viernes. Lo tendré listo." "No, Professor Martínez, I completely understand. The deadline is Friday. I'll have it ready." Spanish, fluent, natural Spanish. Reese turned. Jordan stood at the counter, phone to his ear, completely focused on his conversation. He wore different clothes. Chinos, button-down shirt, looked more graduate student than server. He nodded at something the professor said, switched to English. "Yes, the comparative analysis of Romance language evolution. I'm including the sociolinguistic factors we discussed." Pause. "Thank you. I appreciate the extension." He hung up, ordered coffee, regular coffee, nothing fancy, and turned to find a seat. His eyes met. Reese's. Recognition flashed across his face. No smile, no acknowledgement, just a slight nod, the kind you'd give a stranger you vaguely recognized, before he moved to a table across the cafe, opened a laptop, and disappeared into work. Reese felt something unfamiliar. Not quite embarrassment, not quite curiosity, something between. Her father returned, still talking on his phone, gestured that he needed 5 more minutes. She watched Jordan type, occasionally flip through a thick textbook, completely absorbed. Before she could stop herself, she stood up and walked over. "Excuse me." Jordan looked up, polite but guarded. "Yes? I wanted to apologize for the other night at Lumiere. What I said was inappropriate." He studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I appreciate that. You said you have a doctorate?" "Working on it. PhD candidate at Boston University. Comparative linguistics. I defend my dissertation in 3 months. And you work at Lumiere because doctoral stipends don't cover Boston rent, student loans, or food." His tone wasn't defensive, just factual. "I work 3 nights a week. It pays better than teaching freshman composition." Reese felt her carefully constructed worldview tilting. I didn't realize. Most people don't." Jordan closed his laptop. "Is there something else I can help you with?" Her father called her name from across the cafe, impatient, time-sensitive. She looked back at Jordan, searching for words that wouldn't come. "No," she said finally. "That's all. Good luck with your dissertation." She walked back to her father, but her mind stayed at Jordan's table, turning over everything she thought she knew. Sunday evening, alone in her penthouse, Reese couldn't stop replaying the cafe encounter. She poured wine she didn't drink, started 3 different Netflix shows she didn't watch, finally gave up, and stood at the window watching city lights blur into constellations of wealth and struggle she'd never considered coexisting. Jordan's face kept surfacing in her thoughts. Not angry, not resentful, just tired. The specific exhaustion of someone working multiple jobs while chasing dreams that people like her took for granted. She'd never worked for anything beyond her family's expectations. Her Harvard admission came with a building donation. Her board positions arrived through phone calls her father made. Her last job interview happened at a country club over whiskey. The shame arrived slowly, like water seeping through cracks she didn't know existed. Her phone buzzed. Brooklyn, of course. Brunch tomorrow? I'm meeting with that interior designer for the Beacon Hill renovation. Maybe. I'm tired. You're never tired. What's wrong? Nothing. Just thinking. About? That server, Jordan, from the restaurant. Brooklyn's sigh carried judgment and concern in equal measure. Reese, seriously. You apologized. Move on. He probably already forgot about it. But Reese doubted that. You don't forget being dismissed, being mocked in a language someone assumes you don't speak. She'd never experienced that particular humiliation, but she'd delivered it countless times. Different languages, different contexts, same fundamental cruelty. After hanging up, she did something she'd never done before. She Googled cost of PhD programs Boston and graduate student poverty and working multiple jobs doctorate. The articles painted pictures she'd never imagined. Doctoral candidates living on $13,000 stipends in a city where studio apartments cost $2,000 monthly. Students choosing between textbooks and groceries. Brilliant minds waiting tables, driving Ubers, cleaning houses. Not because they were lazy or unmotivated, but because the system demanded intellectual labor while providing poverty-level compensation. Jordan wasn't an exception. He was the rule. One article featured interviews with graduate students. A woman studying molecular biology worked as a bartender 4 nights weekly. A man researching climate science delivered food until midnight, started research at 5 a.m. Another woman, studying philosophy, said she'd gone 3 days without eating to afford conference registration fees that might help her career. "We're told we're the privileged ones," the philosophy student said in the interview. "We're in graduate school pursuing our passions. But passion doesn't pay rent. Prestige doesn't fill empty stomachs." Reese closed her laptop, nauseous. She'd spent $300 at the spa Thursday. Jordan probably worked an entire shift for that. She'd dropped $800 on a handbag last week. Impulse purchase, barely remembered. That was more than half his monthly stipend. The world looked different now. Not entirely different, but enough. Like someone adjusted the lighting in a familiar room, and suddenly she could see shadows she'd been standing in all along. CTA. Hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world, so don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. Tuesday afternoon, Reese walked through Boston Common, taking a route she normally drove. She'd told herself it was about fresh air, about needing a break from emails and investor reports. She didn't admit she was hoping to see Jordan again. She found him at the park's community center, surrounded by a dozen middle school kids. "Okay, who remembers what bonjour means?" Jordan asked, animated and patient, completely different from the composed server or focused graduate student. "Hello," a young girl shouted, proud of herself. "Exactly. And in Spanish? Hola? Perfect! Now these aren't just words, they're keys. Every language you learn unlocks a whole new world. New books, new movies, new friends, new ways of thinking." Reese watched from the doorway, invisible. The community center was worn but clean, walls covered in hand-drawn posters advertising free tutoring, food assistance programs, youth activities. This wasn't the Boston she knew, the Boston of waterfront condos and private clubs. This was the other Boston, the one she drove past without seeing. "Mr. Jordan, how many languages do you speak?" a boy asked. 6 fluently, working on my 7th. The kid's eyes widened. One girl raised her hand tentatively. "Are you rich?" Jordan laughed, warm and real. "No, sweetie. I work at a restaurant at night and teach classes during the day. I live in a tiny apartment with 2 roommates. Learning languages didn't make me rich, but it made me free." "Free how?" another kid asked. "Free to understand people. Free to travel in my mind even when I can't afford plane tickets. Free to see that people everywhere want the same things. Love, respect, safety, hope. Languages remind us we're all human, just saying it in different ways. An older woman approached. Ms. Patricia, the community center director, 50-something, tired but determined. She noticed Reese in the doorway. "Can I help you?" "I'm sorry, I was just—" Reese didn't know how to finish that sentence. Jordan looked up, surprised. The kids followed his gaze, suddenly shy around this stranger in expensive clothes and obvious privilege. "Reese," Jordan said carefully, "what are you doing here?" "I was walking. I saw you through the window." Awkward silence. Miss Patricia read the tension, clapped her hands. "All right, everyone, 5-minute break. Then we're practicing Spanish greetings." The kids scattered. Jordan stood, approached Reese and Miss Patricia. "Miss Patricia, this is Reese Caldwell. Reese, Miss Patricia runs this community center. She provides free tutoring, meals, and safe space for kids whose parents work multiple jobs." Miss Patricia shook Reese's hand, assessing. "Jordan volunteers here twice a week. Doesn't take a penny. These kids adore him." "I didn't know you did this," Reese said quietly. "There's a lot you don't know," Jordan replied, not unkindly. "About me. About this neighborhood. About what people do when they're not serving you wine." It wasn't cruel, just honest. Reese felt the truth of it settling like weight. "Could I—" she started, then stopped. "Could I stay? Watch the class?" Jordan exchanged glances with Ms. Patricia, who shrugged. "Up to you, baby." He studied Reese for a long moment. "Sure, but sit in the back and don't interrupt. These kids matter more than your curiosity." Reese nodded and found a seat, suddenly invisible in the best possible way. Thursday evening, the Newport planning meeting at her parents' Beacon Hill townhouse felt like theater. Rehearsal for a play Reese no longer wanted to perform. Her mother, Catherine, elegant, calculated, permanently disappointed, reviewed seating charts while her father discussed business strategy with their family attorney, Mitchell Carrington. "The Sakamoto delegation sits with the Wentworths," Catherine announced. "Reese, you're between their son Kenji and Pierce Vanderbilt. Try to be engaging." "I'll do my best," Reese said flatly. Mitchell, 65 and conservative in every possible way, looked up from his documents. "Speaking of engagement, Richard, have you seen the neighborhood association proposal? They want to build mixed-income housing on the old warehouse site." Her father scoffed. "Mixed income. Code for destroying property values." "Exactly. We're organizing opposition. Can't have just anyone moving into this area. We built these neighborhoods for a reason." Reese's stomach tightened. She'd heard these conversations before, participated in them, nodded along. Now they sounded different. She thought about Jordan's students, about Miss Patricia's community center struggling for funding, while her family spent more on flower arrangements than that center's annual budget. "What's wrong with mixed-income housing?" Reese asked quietly. The room froze. Her father looked at her like she'd spoken Mandarin. "What? I'm asking what's wrong with it. People need places to live." Catherine set down her seating chart. "Darling, this isn't about charity. This is about maintaining community standards, property values, safety." "Safety?" Reese repeated. "You mean you don't want certain people living near us?" Mitchell's expression hardened. "Reese, I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but there are economic realities." "Economic realities," her father interrupted, "that you benefit from. This house? Your trust fund? Your lifestyle? All built on property values and strategic investments. You don't burn down the system that feeds you, even if the system hurts other people. Other people aren't your responsibility," her mother said sharply. "Your responsibility is to this family, to our legacy. I don't know where this bleeding heart nonsense is coming from, but it needs to stop." Brooklyn called later that night, summoned by Catherine like reinforcements. "Your mom's worried about you. What's going on?" "Nothing. I just asked questions. Questions that make you sound like some college activist. Reese, you're not that person. You're practical. You understand how the world works. Maybe I don't want to understand it that way anymore. Then you're being naive. Look, I get it. You met some inspiring poor person who made you feel guilty. That's normal. Write a check to a charity and move on. You can't save everyone. I'm not trying to save everyone. I'm trying to be less terrible." Brooklyn's laugh was sharp, uncomfortable. "You're not terrible, you're rich. There's a difference. Rich people don't apologize for being rich. That's the whole point." After hanging up, Reese sat in her bedroom, the bedroom she'd had since childhood, bigger than most apartments, and felt completely alone. Everyone she knew had the same response. Protect wealth, maintain distance, justify inequality. No one wanted to admit that their comfort required other people's struggle. Jordan's words echoed. There's a lot you don't know. She was starting to learn, and the learning hurt. Friday evening, Reese did something she'd never done. She showed up at Lumiere during Jordan's shift and asked to sit in his section. The hostess recognized her, showed her to a quiet corner table. Jordan appeared minutes later, professional mask in place, but his eyes held questions. Good evening. Can I start you with something to drink? Jordan, please, can we talk? He glanced around the restaurant, calculating. I'm working. I know, I'm sorry, I need to understand something. Understand what? Why you're not angry. At me, at people like me. How you teach those kids with so much patience when the world keeps telling you you're less than. Jordan's jaw tightened. He pulled out his order pad, pretending to write. To anyone watching, he was taking her order. You want the truth or the comfortable version? The truth. The truth is I'm exhausted. I'm tired of being twice as educated as people who look down on me. I'm tired of speaking 6 languages and still being invisible unless I'm bringing you wine. I'm tired of working 70-hour weeks while watching people your age spend my yearly salary on a weekend in Paris. His voice stayed quiet, controlled, but Reese heard the weight underneath. Then why be kind? She asked. Why teach those kids? Why not be bitter? Because bitterness destroys the person carrying it, not the person who deserves it. He met her eyes. Those kids didn't create this system. They're trapped in it, same as me. If I can give them tools to fight it, languages, education, confidence, then maybe they have a chance. Maybe they won't spend their lives serving people who don't see them. I see you now. Do you? Or do you see a project? A story you can tell at parties about how you met this inspiring poor black guy who made you think differently before you went back to your penthouse? The words stung because they contained truth. Reese's initial interest had been exactly that. Curiosity, guilt, the desire to feel morally superior. But something had shifted. She couldn't pinpoint when. I don't know, she admitted. I don't know what I see or why I'm here. I just know everything I believed about how the world works feels wrong now, and I don't know how to fix it. Jordan studied her, some of the hardness softening. You can't fix it. Not alone. Not quickly. But you can stop participating in the harm. You can use your privilege to amplify voices instead of silencing them. You can make your spaces, your families, business, your social circles, actually inclusive instead of performatively diverse. How? Start by listening more than talking. Believe people when they tell you about their experiences. Don't need their pain to be educational entertainment. Show up. Not once for photos, but consistently, boringly, unglamorously. A manager glanced their way. Jordan straightened. I need to get back to work. If you actually want to learn, come to the community center Saturday morning. We're organizing a food drive. Not glamorous, not Instagram-worthy, just work. I'll be there. We'll see, Jordan said, then walked away to serve other tables, leaving Reese alone with the most honest conversation she'd had in years. Saturday morning, Reese arrived at the community center in jeans and a sweater, the most casual clothes she owned, still somehow looking expensive. Jordan raised an eyebrow when he saw her, but said nothing, just handed her a clipboard. We're organizing food donations. Sort by expiration date. Separate canned goods from dry goods. Simple. She worked alongside Ms. Patricia and 3 volunteers. Real volunteers who showed up every week, who knew everyone's names, who didn't need praise for basic human decency. They welcomed her cautiously, tested her commitment with heavy boxes and repetitive tasks. Reese said nothing, just worked. 2 hours in, sweating and sore, she started understanding something fundamental. This work was endless. Food drives happened weekly because poverty was constant. No single donation solved anything. The system created need faster than charity could address it. You're quiet, Ms. Patricia observed, sorting pasta boxes beside her. I'm thinking about how useless this feels. We feed people today. They're hungry again tomorrow. What's the point? The point, Ms. Patricia said firmly, is people eat today. Tomorrow we'll figure out tomorrow. You want to fix systemic poverty? Vote, advocate, fund education, demand living wages? But while you're doing that big, important work, people still need to eat today. Don't let perfect justice stop you from immediate mercy. A commotion erupted outside, shouting, multiple voices. Jordan rushed toward the sound. Reese followed. On the street, 3 police officers surrounded 2 black teenagers, both barely 16, hands against a wall. One cop searched their backpacks while another called in their information. A small crowd gathered. Neighbors, community members, phones out recording. What did they do? Jordan demanded. Potential shoplifting report, the officer said. Matching description. Description of what? 2 black kids in hoodies? That's half the neighborhood. Sir, step back. I know these boys, Devin and Marcus. They're in my language class. They were at the community center 10 minutes ago. We still need to verify. Reese watched the boys' faces. Fear mixed with resignation. The exhaustion of being guilty until proven innocent, of being criminalized for existing. One of the boys, Devin, met Jordan's eyes with quiet desperation. Jordan pulled out his phone, showed the officer photos from the morning, time-stamped pictures of both boys at the food drive, sorting cans, laughing. They've been here all morning. Whatever shoplifting happened, it wasn't them. The officer hesitated, radioed something, finally stepped back. All right, they're free to go, but we'll be watching this area. After the police left, the boys collapsed into Jordan's arms, shaking. The crowd dispersed, angry and helpless. Jordan held them, whispered reassurances, walked them back inside. Reese stood frozen on the sidewalk, phone in hand, having recorded nothing, having said nothing, having done nothing. Inside, Jordan sat with Devin and Marcus, Ms. Patricia bringing them water, volunteers gathering around in protective solidarity. Reese watched from the doorway, understanding crystallizing into rage. Not at the police specifically, though they were part of it, but at the entire architecture of inequality she'd benefited from and ignored. Jordan looked up, caught her eye. Still think you can't fix anything? I don't know if I can, but I know I can't do nothing. Then stop watching from doorways, Jordan said. Come inside. Stay inside, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. Reese walked forward, joining the circle, hands shaking, finally choosing which side she wanted to be on. Monday morning, Reese sat across from her father in his corner office, 73rd floor, panoramic view of Boston, walls lined with awards and photos of him shaking hands with politicians and CEOs. You wanted to meet? Richard asked, barely looking up from his computer. I want to change how we do business. Now he looked up. Excuse me? Caldwell Industries. I want us to create a scholarship fund for graduate students. Full ride, tuition, living expenses, research support. I want us to partner with community centers in underserved neighborhoods. I want our hiring practices to actually reflect diversity, not just checkboxes. Her father leaned back, studying her like she'd announced she was joining a cult. What brought this on? I met someone. Someone brilliant who's drowning in student debt while working 70 hours a week. Someone who teaches kids for free because nobody else will. Someone who made me realize we have more money than we could spend in 10 lifetimes while other people can't afford textbooks. So this is about guilt. This is about being less terrible with the power we have. Reese, I built this company on smart investments and strategic decisions, not emotional charity work. You want to write personal checks to causes? Fine, but don't confuse that with running a business. Then teach me. Make me CFO of the foundation division. Let me build something that matters. You have no experience. I have a Harvard economics degree and 7 years watching you operate. I'm not asking for permission to waste money. I'm asking to invest it differently. Silence stretched between them. Richard Caldwell didn't become a billionaire by ignoring smart plays. What's the ROI? Better educated workforce, community goodwill, tax benefits, positive press, and maybe sleeping better at night knowing we're not just extracting wealth from communities without giving back. Richard considered this, fingers drumming his desk, the gesture he made when calculating risk versus reward. You're serious about this? Completely. Fine. You have 6 months. Pilot program, 10 scholarships, $50,000 each. Community partnerships with 3 centers. You handle everything. Applications, vetting, implementation. You prove it works, we expand. You waste my money on feel-good nonsense that goes nowhere. We shut it down, and you join the acquisitions team, like I originally planned. It wasn't everything Reese wanted, but it was more than she expected. Deal. And Reese? Her father's voice hardened. This person you met, the one who inspired this crusade. Be careful. People see opportunity when they meet someone like you. Make sure you're not being played. He doesn't even like me, Dad. Trust me, he's not after anything. They never are. Until they are. Reese left the office, equal parts energized and terrified. She had 6 months to prove wealth could do more than accumulate. 6 months to build something meaningful. 6 months to show Jordan and herself that people could change. She texted him, "Can we meet? I have something to tell you." His response came 20 minutes later. Community Center, 6 p.m. And Reese, if this is some savior complex thing, save us both the time. She smiled despite the nervousness. At least he was honest. That evening at the community center, Reese found Jordan organizing books in the small library corner. She explained everything. The scholarship fund, the community partnerships, the timeline, her father's conditions. Jordan listened without interrupting, face unreadable. "So?" Reese asked when she finished. "What do you think? I think you're going to mess this up. Thanks for the vote of confidence." "I'm serious. You're going to mess it up because you don't know these communities. You don't know what they actually need versus what you think they need. You're going to make decisions from your penthouse that sound good on paper, but fail in practice. Then help me. Be on the advisory board. Tell me what I'm missing." Jordan closed the book he was holding. "Why should I trust you won't lose interest? People like you do this all the time. Get inspired, start projects, then disappear when it gets boring or difficult. These communities can't afford more broken promises. I can't prove I won't fail, but I can promise I'll try, and I'll listen. Actually listen, not just wait to talk." He studied her for a long moment, weighing sincerity against cynicism, hope against experience. "Okay, I'll help, but on my terms. No photo ops, no press releases, no using these kids' struggles for your family's PR. We do this right or we don't do it at all." Agreed. They shook hands, the gesture formal and significant. Two people from different worlds trying to build a bridge neither was sure would hold. CTA? "Hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world, so don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. The Newport Gala arrived with all its expected grandeur. String quartets, ice sculptures, champagne towers, 500 guests representing old money and older prejudices. Reese wore the expected designer gown, smiled at the expected people, played the expected role. Until dinner speeches began. Her father stood at the podium, announcing quarterly profits and strategic expansions. Then, unexpectedly, "My daughter Reese has something to share about a new initiative." He hadn't warned her. This was a test. Reese approached the microphone, heart hammering. 500 faces, investors, politicians, socialites, waited with polite attention. She saw her mother's warning glare, Brooklyn's confused expression, Pierce Vanderbilt's entitled smile. She thought of Jordan, of Devin and Marcus against that wall, of kids who spoke 3 languages but couldn't afford college, of Miss Patricia stretching tiny budgets to feed entire neighborhoods. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Reese began, voice steadier than she felt. "My father asked me to announce Caldwell Industries' new scholarship and community investment program. But before I do, I need to say something honest." Her mother's face went pale. "I've spent 28 years benefiting from systems designed to keep people like me comfortable and people unlike me struggling. I've dismissed service workers, ignored inequality, and justified wealth hoarding as somehow earned or deserved. I've been, to put it simply, part of the problem." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Her father's expression was unreadable. "This scholarship fund isn't charity. It's not generosity. It's the bare minimum correction to a system that takes brilliant minds and buries them in debt, while people like us buy fourth homes we never visit. Starting next month, Caldwell Industries will fully fund 10 doctoral candidates annually. Tuition, living expenses, research costs. We're partnering with community centers in underserved neighborhoods, and we're implementing hiring practices that create actual opportunity, not just diversity photo ops. The murmurs grew louder. Someone near the back started clapping. Probably drunk, possibly supportive. It didn't spread. I know many of you think this is naive or foolish or bad business. Maybe you're right. But I'm tired of being comfortable with other people's suffering. I'm tired of pretending wealth trickles down when it clearly just pools at the top. So this is happening, whether it's popular or not. She stepped away from the microphone. The room stayed silent, that particular silence of disapproval too polite to be spoken. Her father returned to the podium, smoothly redirecting to safe topics. Japanese investments, quarterly projections, predictable futures. Afterward, people avoided Reese like poverty was contagious. Pierce Vanderbilt actually turned away mid-approach. Her mother cornered her near the coat check. What were you thinking? I was thinking I'm tired of lying. You embarrassed your father. You embarrassed this family. Good. Maybe we should be embarrassed. Catherine's expression hardened into something Reese had seen before. When business deals failed, when country club memberships were revoked, when anyone challenged the Caldwell family's position. You're throwing away everything we built. No, Mom. I'm trying to build something that doesn't require other people's pain. She left the gala early, drove back to Boston, and texted Jordan. I think I just burned every bridge I had? His response, good bridges to burn. Come to the center tomorrow. We've got work to do. 3 months later, Reese sat in the community center's small office reviewing scholarship applications. Her penthouse felt empty now, a monument to a version of herself she was trying to leave behind. She'd moved to a smaller apartment in a mixed-income neighborhood, donated most of her designer clothes, learned to grocery shop without personal assistance. The changes were uncomfortable. They were supposed to be. Jordan knocked on the open door, carrying coffee. Regular coffee from the corner bodega, not the $12 lattes she used to drink. How's the application review going? Overwhelming. There are 200 applicants for 10 spots. That's the point. There shouldn't be 10 spots. There should be 200. But 10 is better than 0. He was right. Progress wasn't perfection. It was incremental movement towards something better. My father's extending the program, Reese said. 20 scholarships next year. He says the press coverage was better than expected. Of course it was. Rich people love feeling good about themselves. That's cynical. That's realistic. But I'll take pragmatic good over idealistic nothing. Jordan sat across from her, tired but content. His dissertation defense was in 2 weeks. After that, a teaching position at Boston University, enough to finally leave the restaurant, to sleep more than 4 hours nightly, to breathe. I owe you an apology, Reese said. Another one? A different one, for thinking I could save anyone. Ms. Patricia was right. I can't fix systemic poverty. But I was approaching this like you were problems to solve instead of people to work alongside. And now I'm just trying to be less terrible and more useful. Small goals. Jordan smiled, that rare, genuine smile she'd learned to recognize. Small goals are underrated. Outside the office window, kids played in the center's small courtyard. Devin and Marcus practiced Spanish with 2 new volunteers. College students Reese had recruited. Young people who wanted to contribute but didn't know how. The courtyard had new playground equipment, funded by Caldwell Industries. Not enough, but something. You're still uncomfortable, Jordan observed. Every day. I don't know how to exist in spaces anymore. Too rich for here, too changed for there. Good. Discomfort means you're growing. The minute you get comfortable again, you've stopped learning. They sat in quiet understanding. 2 people from different worlds who'd collided and somehow built something neither expected. Not a romance, though maybe that would come later, or maybe it wouldn't. What they'd built was more important. Respect, partnership, shared commitment to doing better than the systems that shaped them. Reese looked at the scholarship applications spread across the desk, each one a brilliant mind, a unique story, A person who deserved more than the world offered. She couldn't help them all, but she could help these 10, then 20, then more. It wasn't redemption. Redemption implied you could erase harm. You couldn't. But you could stop causing new harm and start building something better. That would have to be enough. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, it was.